WWE Chief Executive Officer Triple H reveals Ric Flair is battling cancer at the age of 76. Ric Flair was a good friend of Hulk Hogan, who just passed away at the age of 71 due to cardiac arrest. WWE Hall of Famer Ric Flair is showing his legendary fighting spirit, sharing a new workout video just days after revealing he is battling skin cancer and requires surgery. The post provides a positive update on his health and has been met with celebration from fans. The Nature Boy posted footage of himself doing cardio at the gym to his social media accounts. The video was accompanied by a defiant message that captured his trademark enthusiasm. Under the unforgiving glare of the spotlight, the ring has always been where Ric Flair thrived. The roar of the crowd, the bright lights of WrestleMania, and the signature "Woooo" echoing through packed arenas all became the anthem of a man who, for decades, personified wrestling royalty. But now, at the age of 76, a far different battle is taking place. One not waged with chops and suplexes, but with courage, surgery, and a diagnosis that has brought a somber hush over the wrestling world. WWE CEO Triple H has come forward with a heartbreaking revelation. Ric Flair is currently battling cancer. The timing of this announcement is devastating. Just days ago, the WWE Universe was shaken by the passing of Hulk Hogan, a wrestling icon in his own right, who died from cardiac arrest at 71. Hogan and Flair, though once fierce rivals in the squared circle, shared more than a few iconic moments. They were legends bound by their era, by their battles, and by the bond that only performers of their caliber could understand. They bled in the same rings, inspired the same generation of fans, and became larger than life. And now, one of them is gone, and the other is fighting for his life. Triple H, the current leader of WWE's corporate and creative vision, stood before reporters with a heavy heart. Ric's always been more than just a wrestler. He's a symbol, a survivor, a friend. But right now, he's facing something that even the toughest men can't take lightly. The tone of the press conference was markedly different from WWE's usual bombast. This was no storyline. This was real. As he spoke, there was no kayfabe, no gimmicks, just an honest glimpse into the quiet suffering of a man who has lived a life as loud and defiant as any in sports history. The news came shortly after Flair took to social media to share something deeply personal. His diagnosis. It was skin cancer, and he revealed he would soon undergo surgery. The post, though painful, was wrapped in optimism in true Nature Boy fashion. Accompanied by a video of himself doing cardio in the gym, Flair's message was characteristically fiery. "I'm not done yet. Whoa. You think skin cancer's gonna stop me? I don't think so," he declared. For fans, the video offered a brief sigh of relief. Here he was, the same Ric Flair, still fighting, still showboating, still defiant in the face of yet another overwhelming challenge. Yet, beneath the bravado and charisma, the truth remains painful. At 76, Flair has already endured more than most. A body broken by decades of falls, chops, and punishing matches. A heart weakened by past surgeries and brushes with death. In 2017, fans feared the worst when Ric was rushed into emergency surgery due to a bowel obstruction, which later led to kidney failure and extended time in intensive care. Few expected him to walk again, let alone return to the gym or, eventually, the ring. But he did. He always did. Now, with the news of his cancer, that resilience is being tested yet again. The wrestling world reacted swiftly. Social media platforms lit up with messages of support. Former rivals, current stars, and longtime fans alike poured their hearts out. Seth Rollins tweeted, "A legend through and through. We're all pulling for you, Ric." Becky Lynch posted a photo of herself and Flair backstage, writing simply, "Woo is forever. You've got this." And perhaps the most emotional message came from Charlotte Flair, Ric's daughter and WWE Superstar in her own right. "My father is the toughest man I know. He's beaten the odds more times than I can count. And he's going to beat this too. Love you, Dad." The fans' response was just as overwhelming. Comments flooded Flair's Instagram post, praising his positivity, his fight, and his never-say-die attitude. For a generation that grew up idolizing him, this wasn't just a man facing cancer, it was a hero in battle. One comment read, "You gave us everything for decades, Rick. Now it's our turn to stand behind you." Another wrote, "You were my childhood. My reason for loving wrestling. You've already won." For those who followed Ric Flair's journey over the years, this isn't just another sad headline. It's another chapter in a story defined by resilience. Born Fred Phillips and later adopted into the Flair family, Ric's beginnings were anything but privileged. Raised in Minnesota, he was a gifted athlete from a young age. Wrestling found him early, and with the help of Vern Gagne, Flair trained relentlessly to become one of the sport's most iconic performers. His early years weren't easy, but he clawed his way to the top with showmanship, talent, and a flair, literally, for the dramatic. He wasn't just another superstar, he was the nature boy. With golden robes, diamond-studded promos, and unmatched mic skills, he redefined what it meant to be a wrestling personality. His feuds with Ricky Steamboat, Dusty Rhodes, and Harley Race are etched in history. And when he eventually transitioned to the WWF, then back to WCW, and then returned again, it became clear. Ric Flair wasn't just a wrestler. He was wrestling, but like many performers, Flair's personal life mirrored the chaos of the ring. Legal troubles, financial pitfalls, and health crises followed him like shadows. His personal tragedies, like the loss of his son Reed, a promising wrestler himself, cut deeply. And still, Flair pressed on. Through addiction, surgeries, failed business ventures, and countless public controversies, he always found a way back into the light. This cancer battle is no different. While the diagnosis has cast a dark cloud, Flair's defiance remains the same. His video from the gym wasn't just content for fans, it was a message to the disease itself. A declaration that he is still in control. Still standing. Still fighting. The sight of him walking into the gym, clad in sweats, his face weathered but determined, stirred something deep in the hearts of viewers. Age has slowed him, yes, but it has not broken him. Triple H, who has long considered Ric Flair a mentor and close friend, didn't mince words during his statement. "We've seen Rick overcome the worst. We've seen him cheat death. And knowing him, he's probably already planning his return to the gym post-surgery." There was a small smile as he said it, a mixture of sadness and admiration. Rick is a fighter. Always has been. And now he needs us all in his corner. That sentiment has become the rallying cry across WWE's locker room and fan base alike. Stand with Rick. Whether through hashtags, videos, or messages, fans are flooding platforms to show their love and support. It's a testament to just how deeply Ric Flair has touched people, not just as an entertainer, but as a man. Few figures in wrestling have had a presence as magnetic, as enduring, or as beloved. This chapter of Ric Flair's life, though undoubtedly painful, feels like an inevitable part of the legacy he's built. A legacy not defined by just the glitz and glam of his in-ring persona, but by the battles behind the curtain. Cancer is just another opponent, and while it's an opponent no one ever wants to face, if there's one person who might still strut his way through the fire, it's Ric Flair, yet there is something haunting about the timing. The fact that this diagnosis comes so closely on the heels of Hulk Hogan's death has forced the wrestling world to confront its own mortality. Two icons, one already gone, one now in peril. For fans, it feels like the end of an era. The days of larger-than-life personas, of classic promos and unforgettable matches, are slipping further into the past. Hogan's death at 71, and now Flair's diagnosis at 76, are more than personal tragedies. They are reminders of time's relentless march, and yet, within that reminder, there is also strength. Flair's decision to share his diagnosis openly, to lace up his sneakers and go to the gym anyway, is not just brave. It's powerful. It's a message to those struggling, whether with health, aging, or life's unexpected blows, that the fight never really ends. Not if you're willing to keep going. For Flair, this moment is about more than survival. It's about legacy. Not the titles, not the feuds, not even the whoa heard around the world, but the example he sets now. The example of grit, of aging with dignity, of refusing to go quietly. If wrestling is about storytelling, then Ric Flair is giving us one of his greatest stories yet. Not one told in a promo, not in the middle of a steel cage, but in the quiet strength of a man who refuses to surrender, and perhaps that's why the world is watching so closely. Because even now, after all these years, Ric Flair is showing us what it means to be a champion, not just in the ring, but in life. As the days rolled on following the announcement, the mood in the wrestling community remained a mix of reverence and worry. While fans clung to Ric Flair's public optimism, there was no escaping the reality. This was a serious diagnosis. Skin cancer, depending on the type and stage, can be incredibly aggressive. And at 76, with a body worn thin from decades of physical trauma, Ric's fight was going to be unlike any before. But for those who know the man behind the robes and championship belts, surrender was never an option. Inside WWE headquarters, the tone shifted. WWE CEO Triple H quietly instructed his team to begin preparing a long-term tribute package, just in case. While hopeful for Flair's recovery, the company couldn't ignore the risks. "We're doing this out of respect," a backstage source said. "We all hope he beats this, but we also want to be prepared to honor him properly if the worst happens." Those words were never easy to say, especially not about a man who had defined the DNA of pro wrestling. Meanwhile, Charlotte Flair doubled down on her father's legacy, not just publicly supporting him, but also taking time away from certain WWE obligations to be by his side. Close sources revealed she was flying back and forth from show appearances to North Carolina, where Ric was preparing for surgery. In quiet moments, away from the fans and the cameras, she reportedly sat beside him, holding his hand in the hospital room, reminding him that he wasn't alone. For Charlotte, this wasn't just about a wrestling icon, it was about her dad. The man who taught her strength, resilience, and how to carry the Flair name with pride. Ric's gym video, now viewed millions of times, began to take on a new meaning. It wasn't just a clip of a legend training. It was a symbol of defiance, a flicker of hope. One fan commented, "If he's still moving, we can't count him out." The line was picked up by several wrestling podcasts and eventually made its way onto WWE programming, where commentary teams referenced it during shows. "Never count out the Nature Boy." It became a chant, a rallying cry, whispered not with hype, but with love. Backstage, the locker room was rattled. Superstars like Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens were seen wearing custom Woooo for Ric armbands during dark matches. A growing number of talent began pushing for a special Ric Flair Appreciation Night to take place on the upcoming Raw episode. While plans were still in flux, the sentiment was unanimous. This man deserved his flowers now, not later. "Give him the ovation now," said LA Knight in a behind-the-scenes interview. "Don't wait till it's too late." But despite the swelling support, Ric Flair himself remained characteristically fiery. In a private video message shared with a few close friends and WWE insiders, he said, "You think I've made it this far to tap out now? Whoa. I'm not going anywhere." The message, laced with energy and that unmistakable Flair bravado, had those who saw it laughing and crying in equal measure. This wasn't just vintage Ric, it was essential Ric. Unbreakable, unfiltered, unshaken. Still, the physical toll could not be ignored. Sources close to the Flair family revealed that his surgery was scheduled for the following week. Doctors were cautiously optimistic but warned that due to his age and medical history, complications were a concern. Flair, according to his daughter, took the news with grace. He said, "Tell them to sharpen their scalpels. I've got a dinner reservation next week. That's dad for you." But behind the charm, there were quiet moments of reflection. Late one evening, he reportedly turned to Charlotte and whispered, "If this is it, tell them I did it my way. Every second of it." It wasn't a surrender. It wasn't even fear. It was clarity. A man who had lived more lives than most, who had danced with death more than once, was simply acknowledging that he understood the weight of the moment. WWE, meanwhile, began reaching out to former legends to compile messages of support and stories for a potential tribute video. Bret Hart, who famously tangled with Flair in the 90s, said in his recording, "We had our differences, sure. But I never doubted Ric's heart. He's one of the toughest sons of guns I ever stepped in the ring with. And I know he's going to kick cancer's ass too." Shawn Michaels, the man who faced Flair in his 2008 retirement match, struggled to get through his statement. "I told him, I'm sorry. I love you in the ring that night. I meant it then. I mean it even more now." Fans around the world began sharing their own memories. Videos from past events resurfaced: Ric's bloody match with Ricky Steamboat, his tearful Hall of Fame induction speech, his hilarious promos in WCW. Younger fans, who only knew Flair through his daughter or his wild interviews on social media, were beginning to discover the magic of the man behind the legend. Flair's name began trending again, not because of tragedy, but because of celebration. For a moment, the wrestling world wasn't mourning. It was honoring. One particularly viral post featured a side-by-side of Flair's iconic strut and his recent gym video. The caption read, "Time ages the body, not the soul." It encapsulated everything fans were feeling. Yes, the Ric Flair of today is older, frailer, and facing perhaps the most daunting fight of his life. But his soul, that defiant, electrifying, larger-than-life energy, remained untouched. And this fight? It wasn't just his. It was ours. For WWE fans, Ric Flair isn't just a performer. He's a memory. A milestone. A connection to childhood, to dreams, to that exhilarating feeling of witnessing something unforgettable. Every woo shouted at a live event. Every robe that sparkled under the lights. Every emotional promo. It all lives in the hearts of millions. That's why this moment hurts. Because it feels like watching time itself chip away at something sacred. But Ric Flair refuses to be a tragedy. In one of his most candid Instagram posts, he wrote, "I've lived 10 lifetimes in one. This is just another chapter. Keep watching. I've got a few more pages to turn." The post went viral instantly. Thousands of fans reposted it, commenting, "Keep fighting, champ, and you're still the man." Among them was Roman Reigns, who posted a simple message: "Respect to the man who paved the road. You got this, Rick." That show of respect from the current tribal chief to the nature boy was a symbolic passing of the torch, a bridge between generations, united by resilience. Still, not everything was celebratory. Rumors began to swirl online, as they often do, that Rick's condition might be more severe than initially reported. Tabloids speculated about a potential terminal diagnosis. Some suggested he was preparing his estate. But Flair's team moved swiftly to shut down the rumors. A family spokesperson issued a statement: "Rick is aware of the rumors circulating. While we ask for privacy during this time, we want to be clear he is not giving up, and neither should you." Triple H echoed the sentiment on an episode of WWE's The Bump, saying, "Rick has been through hell and back. He's built for this. Don't write his last chapter yet." Indeed, the script isn't finished. Not by a long shot. And if Ric Flair has anything to say about it, he'll be the one holding the pen. As the surgery date approached, an air of nervous anticipation hovered over WWE. Backstage segments were being adjusted. Commentary teams were briefed. A tentative Nature Boy tribute segment was outlined for a future Raw, but staff were advised to hold off unless absolutely necessary. No one wanted to jinx it. But everyone wanted to be ready. Meanwhile, Charlotte remained fiercely optimistic. She began working on a video package herself, collecting rare footage of her father's early career. Friends said she was preparing it not as a memorial, but as a victory reel, something to show him after the surgery. Something to remind him of the legend he is, in case he needed the motivation to keep pushing. And somewhere in a quiet gym in North Carolina, Ric Flair kept moving. Slow, deliberate steps. Arms pumping. Chest heaving. With each step, he wasn't just exercising his body. He was sending a message: "I'm still here. Still here, despite the surgeries, the scandals, the grief, the losses." Still here after burying friends, rivals, and even his own son. Still here, through the noise, through the silence, through every blessing and every burden. Ric Flair at 76, battling cancer, reminded us all why he will always be the man. The sun had just begun to rise on the morning of Ric Flair's scheduled surgery. It was quiet. The kind of quiet that only exists in hospitals before the day's chaos begins. In a sterile pre-op room deep in a North Carolina medical facility, the Nature Boy lay still, surrounded not by roaring fans or flashing cameras, but by monitors, masked nurses, and the occasional beep of a heart rate. There was no gold robe, no championship belt slung over his shoulder. Just a simple hospital gown and the sound of Charlotte softly holding his hand, whispering, "You've got this, Dad." For someone who had lived in front of millions for most of his adult life, this was perhaps the most intimate stage he had ever performed on. But make no mistake, Ric Flair understood the gravity of this moment. He had always thrived under pressure. And now, even as his body faced the greatest test yet, his spirit remained unmistakably his own. Moments before being wheeled away, Rick turned to his daughter with a smile that somehow blended fear, defiance, and humor into one expression. "Tell them I'm coming back for that cardio session," he said. Then, like he'd done so many times before, he let out one final whisper, "Whoa." The procedure was complex but necessary. The surgeons worked diligently, removing a portion of the cancerous tissue, while keeping careful attention on the surrounding areas affected by decades of physical stress. His past heart complications only made the operation more delicate, and for hours, the Flair family waited in tense silence. Outside the hospital, a small group of fans had gathered, some wearing retro Flair merchandise, some carrying signs that simply read, "Get well, champ." A few held up smartphones, live-streaming the moment for thousands of supporters who couldn't be there in person. It wasn't just a surgery, it was a collective prayer. Back in Stamford, WWE executives remained glued to updates. Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, and even Vince, who has largely stepped away from the spotlight, were reportedly kept in the loop throughout the procedure. "This isn't just a colleague," one longtime WWE staffer said. "This is Rick. He is wrestling. Everything we are, every arena, every match, every chant owes something to him." When the doctors finally emerged with an update, the family braced for the worst. But what they heard brought tears of cautious relief. The surgery was successful. The cancerous tissue had been removed, and though follow-up treatments would be necessary, Ric Flair had once again done the unthinkable. He had survived. The moment the news broke, the internet exploded. #StillTheMan trended worldwide. Wrestlers from across generations flooded social media with messages of love, strength, and utter disbelief. "You just can't stop him," Randy Orton tweeted. "The man's immortal." John Cena posted a heartfelt message on his Instagram, accompanied by a picture of his first meeting with Rick. "Legends don't retire. They just keep showing us how to live." Back in his hospital room, Ric Flair slowly opened his eyes. His voice was hoarse. His body ached. But when Charlotte told him the world was celebrating, he gave a weary smile and whispered, "Whoa." And with that, the Nature Boy was back, but recovery wouldn't be easy. Doctors made it clear he'd need rest, physical therapy, and likely further evaluations to ensure no spread of the cancer. They also advised staying out of the gym, off his feet, and away from stress. Anyone who knew Ric Flair knew that wasn't going to happen. Just 3 days after surgery, he posted a photo from his hospital bed. Weak but grinning, wearing his signature shades, and holding up 4 fingers, the universal symbol of the 4 horsemen. The caption read, "Surgery done. Recovery begins. You think I'm finished? I've only just begun." Whoa. The post shattered engagement records. WWE released an official statement praising Rick's resilience and confirming that they would be organizing a special televised segment to honor him on the next edition of Raw. Not a memorial. A celebration. "It's not just about the fight," the statement read. "It's about what comes after." And Ric Flair is proof that no matter how old you are, how broken you feel, Or, how many times life knocks you down, if you've got heart, you get back up. In the days that followed, clips of Ric's greatest moments flooded WWE's social channels. From his wild promos to his blood-soaked matches, fans were reminded of why Flair meant so much to the business. He wasn't just a wrestler. He was a cultural icon, a living embodiment of showmanship, rebellion, and flair. Every shout of "Woooo" in the crowd wasn't just homage, it was ritual, but perhaps the most touching tribute came from someone outside the WWE. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson posted a lengthy video from his personal gym, calling Ric a warrior, mentor, and friend. Holding back tears, The Rock recounted the time Flair gave him advice during a difficult period in his early career. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Kid, if you believe in yourself the way I believe in this business, they can never keep you down." I never forgot that. Meanwhile, Ric's home became a rotating door of well-wishers. Old friends, young wrestlers, medical staff, and family. Some brought flowers, others brought wine he wasn't allowed to drink. But all brought love. And Ric? He cracked jokes, played his entrance music from his phone, and planned. Always planned. Next WrestleMania, he told Charlotte, "I want to walk that ramp one last time. Not to wrestle. Just to be there. To hear the crowd. One last pop." Charlotte promised she'd make it happen. In private, though, she couldn't hide her own fears. The surgery was a win, yes, but the future was still uncertain. Cancer has a way of lingering in the shadows, and even the strongest souls can only endure so much. "I just want him to be happy," she confided to a close friend. "I want him to know he's loved. That even if he never steps into another arena again, his legacy is already eternal." Legacy. That word hung heavy in the air. Because when it comes to Ric Flair, it's hard to separate the man from the myth. How do you measure a life lived this loudly? This unapologetically? By the championships? The matches? The promos? Or by the lives he touched, the generations he inspired, and the thunderous ovations that greeted him each time he walked down that ramp? To Ric Flair, legacy isn't something carved in stone. It's alive, breathing, evolving. And as he lay recovering, fans everywhere were helping write it with every comment, every tribute, every whispered "Woooo" in locker rooms and living rooms around the world. Triple H later announced that the next WWE Hall of Fame ceremony would include a never-before-done honor, the Legacy Lifetime Award. And the inaugural recipient? Ric Flair, because he's done more than earn it, Triple H said during the announcement. He is it. And when the time came for Ric to appear, perhaps not under flashing lights or roaring cheers, but in front of a quiet group of doctors for his first post-surgery checkup, he straightened his posture, wiped his eyes, looked in the mirror, and smiled. "You've still got it," he told his reflection. Woooo. The weeks following Ric Flair's surgery unfolded with cautious optimism and overwhelming public support. Recovery was slow, as expected for a man of his age and condition, but every day brought a small victory. Whether it was sitting up without assistance, walking the length of his hallway, or simply eating a full meal, each milestone was a reminder that the Nature Boy was still defying odds, just like he always had. What made these days remarkable wasn't just the medical progress, it was the spirit with which Ric embraced them. He posted daily updates to his fans, often beginning each message with his signature "Woooo," as if to remind the world that, even in the face of cancer, he was still the same flamboyant, larger-than-life figure. One day, he recorded himself doing light bicep curls with a resistance band, captioning it, "If I can flex, I can fight." The world responded in kind. "Ric Flair is a national treasure," one user wrote. Another said, "There are superheroes in comics, and then there's Ric Flair in real life." Charlotte Flair continued to play a central role in his recovery. She temporarily stepped back from in-ring competition, opting instead to spend more time at home. WWE accommodated her unconditionally. For Charlotte, being there wasn't a choice, it was instinct. She shared tender moments on social media, including one where Ric is seen holding her championship belt with the caption, "Passing it back to the champ. You made me. Now let me carry you." The bond between them, forged through blood, shared ambition, and heartbreak, resonated deeply with fans. WWE capitalized on this emotional connection with a beautifully produced tribute segment during Monday Night Raw. The segment didn't focus on Ric's illness, but celebrated his resilience. It featured testimonials from superstars across eras: Edge, Randy